In today's world, people have become really aware of the importance of living a meaningful life. No one wants to robotically go through their lives and their days and do something that doesn't fulfill them. This has become a must and an undeniable reality for many. The problem is that today's society is extremely competitive, and we all get deluded into thinking that real success is status, money, or fame. These things are often put on a pedestal, but they do not achieve the sense of purpose and fulfillment we're talking about. Doing something you don't love for the mere fact that society perceives it as valuable is a guaranteed way to become unmotivated and even feel depressed. From a broader perspective, doing anything in your life that you're not fully convinced of is a recipe for disaster. This makes us lose touch with ourselves and eventually will make us realize that we're not fulfilling our true inner potential, which has a detrimental effect on our mental health. You feel that your days or your actions are empty and don't contain any meaning. The repetitive nature of our daily lives creeps in, and life becomes absurd and meaningless. This is usually the time when we develop anxiety, and if you recognize this pattern in your life, it's a good sign because that's the first step to finding a constructive solution. So the first reaction we all have is to start to question the meaning of life and even ask if it has any meaning at all. This is a crucial step and a crucial point in everyone's journey because it either leads to finding a purpose and becoming fulfilled or losing any meaning whatsoever and becoming nihilistic. That's why in this video we will explore together the first crucial step into finding our purpose and living a fulfilling life. Since we talk about purpose and meaning, we must explore the existentialist perspective on the question. All the philosophers and psychologists that have treated this matter, whether directly or indirectly, have all agreed on one thing: that meaning and purpose are created from within. But first, we need to understand what is existentialism. In a nutshell, existentialism seeks to explain the individual human experience and what it means to exist in a universe we do not comprehend. According to the existentialist formula, life has no inherent meaning. And this is where our mission starts: to use our free will in this lack of meaning to create our values and purpose. Our free will is the ability to decide what to do independently of any outside influence. As Jean-Paul Sartre puts it in his 1946 work entitled Existentialism is a Humanism, man first of all exists, encounters himself, surges up in the world, and defines himself afterwards. Sartre's core philosophy is centered around the idea that our human existence comes before any predetermined essence or meaning. You might have come across his famous quote, "Existence precedes essence," which simply means that we first exist and then we define ourselves with our actions, values, and decisions. In his writing, the philosopher makes the bold claim that life is fundamentally meaningless and absurd. According to him, it is our sole responsibility to confront this existential condition and create our purpose and meaning in life. In other words, we are not born with a predetermined purpose or meaning, and each individual is completely free to create that meaning for themselves. If we don't take action and engage in this journey of purpose creation, then life will always be empty and futile. This places the burden of creating meaning squarely on our shoulders. This position makes everyone fully accountable for their current situation. You become responsible for who you are and the decisions you make in your life. You are not free to escape the responsibility of your choices. You cannot blame your parents, upbringing, or circumstances. By recognizing this truth, we understand that we have the key to make the necessary changes to lead a better and more fulfilling life. Your objectives, your interactions, and your thoughts, everything will be linked to the meaning you create. Creating meaning gives us a reason to live, a reason to get up in the morning, and most importantly, a reason to face adversity. As Nietzsche beautifully said, "He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how." Indeed, this idea can be liberating and empowering because we realize that we control everything. We can decide, we can create our meaning and our future. However, it could also be a bit daunting because we realize that we're responsible for everything we do. A bad decision, a bad consequence, anything would be our responsibility. The freedom of choice comes with the responsibility to make the right decision for yourself and accept any outcome, and this is no easy task. Man is condemned to be free, because once thrown into the world, he is responsible for everything he does. Jean-Paul Sartre. For Sartre, we are condemned because we didn't choose to be born, yet we found ourselves here. On top of that, we find ourselves in a life that is inherently absurd and meaningless. Again, this puts a lot of responsibility on our shoulders to act, because if we don't, we will never reach the sense of fulfillment we're all striving for. He says, every word has consequences, every silence too. We choose our actions and we choose our inactions. Everything depends on us. Whether you act or don't act, both are completely up to you, and only you will bear the consequences. You should look at your life and realize that you can change anything you don't like and create everything you like. Only when this mindset is understood that we can truly embrace freedom. At first, this freedom could be a source of anxiety, but it's also a source of hope. According to Sartre, anxiety is an essential aspect of freedom. It motivates us to make the best possible choices and provides purpose to our lives. The ability to choose our path in life is a valuable gift that defines our humanity. It is what allows us to create our destiny and learn from our mistakes. Through trial and error, we learn, we get better, and we go through the experiences that shape who we are. However, it is a responsibility that comes with its own set of challenges. We must face this burden with courage and accountability to ensure that we make the most of our freedom. We will always face the dilemma between courage and fear. The courage to act or the fear to do nothing. This is not only Sartre's point of view. Many philosophers have agreed that anxiety shouldn't be seen as something bad, because it is the drive that pushes us to take action, to reflect, to think, and all these are the first steps of improvement. For example, Alfred Adler, the Austrian psychotherapist, saw anxiety as the main drive of the evolution of society since the beginning of mankind. He argued that anxiety stems from an inferiority complex, that one isn't capable of doing certain things. Thus, it pushes us to improve and get better at whatever we're doing. This view confirms that anxiety is a sign of potential growth and improvement. But then to improve, we need to aim. And when we aim, we realize that we have an endless open sea of possibilities, and that is another great source of anxiety. According to Kierkegaard, anxiety comes from the realization that we have a near infinite number of possibilities, and each pursuit leads to an unknown end. He says that anxiety is the dizziness of freedom. With great freedom and great choice comes great anxiety. We don't want to be bound to certain formal structures and ways of living, but we also don't want to be alone in a vast sea of possibilities. His idea is reflected in the works of Barry Schwartz's book, The Paradox of Choice. He argues that having too many options makes it difficult to decide, since comparing all the possible options is a really hard task. This situation makes it more likely to make the wrong decision, or at least not be fully convinced with the decisions we make. In a world full of information about science, religion, philosophy, and business, it could be very difficult to digest everything, and it could easily get overwhelming for us. In that context, by having this great flux of information, it's very difficult to choose the right information to digest and understand and create our own meaning. We often get easily influenced by external sources and external information, and that makes it very difficult to create our own meaning and our own purpose. And this is where we should understand that creating purpose or meaning doesn't come from any external sources. It should come from within, as we said in the beginning of the video. Indeed, we need to digest information in order to understand it and make the decisions necessary to direct our lives, but there is a great difference between understanding and digesting information and getting influenced by the external sources. What I need is to get clear about what I must do, not what I must know, except insofar as knowledge must precede every act. The crucial thing is to find the truth which is truth for me, to find the idea for which I'm willing to live and die. According to Kierkegaard, the key to finding meaning is not any external knowledge, but relies solely upon the subjective human experience. In that context, our first-person perspective is essential. He is advising us to try and eliminate all the external influences, when we form an opinion or make a decision. For example, I always try to examine the opinions I feel strongly about. I want to know where they come from. Is it my family, my culture, my friends, the media? When I identify the source, I try to distance myself from it as much as possible, and I question the opinion with a neutral perspective. Or at least I try. My aim is to know whether these opinions are truly mine or if they were just adopted by default because of my environment. I really recommend you to do this as a reflective exercise. Ask yourself the hard questions, examine your opinions and your motives, and try as much as possible to be neutral and honest with yourself. Ask yourself these 3 simple questions. Why am I doing this? Why do I think this? And why do I want this? By trying to understand the answers of these questions, you really start to capture the true motives that lie behind your actions. It is only by questioning everything we do and believe that we become aware to what degree or to what extent we can be easily influenced by the people around us, by the media, or simply by our culture. This is a difficult exercise because I believe it's rare to have this intimate relationship with oneself. People nowadays tend to live and think how society tells them to live and think. They only create their meaning regarding external information, and they always seek external validation. This way of thinking clouds their judgment into thinking that their life is meaningful, but in reality, it is simply a replication of societal expectations and norms. They ought to be confused when they realize that their actions don't align with their core values. Nietzsche believed that the task of becoming our true selves is very difficult, mainly because of societal pressure of conformity. It is no easy task to go against what's popular and be the odd one out. Our desire to please others and fit in society denies us of our uniqueness. The objective is to be authentic and allow our uniqueness to set us apart. One must shed the bad taste of wanting to agree with many. Good is no longer good when one's neighbor mouths it. And how should there be a common good? The term contradicts itself. Whatever can be common always has little value. In the end, it must be as it is and always has been. Great things remain for the great, abysses for the profound, nuances and shudders for the refined, and in brief, all that is rare for the rare. Friedrich Nietzsche. Conformity can be harmful to discovering our life's purpose, as it can lead us to mistake our own beliefs for those of others. We may find ourselves torn between our values and those of society, creating an internal conflict. This can lead to a difficult choice between fitting in with others or taking the loner path. Ultimately, the decision is between conforming or having the courage to be our true selves. It is very important to understand how to balance conformity and uniqueness. This balance is a must in order to live a fulfilling life. Any of those extremes would create a lot of frustration and would make our lives much more difficult. Whether it's Sartre, Nietzsche, or Kierkegaard, they all understood and highlighted a lot of times the importance of being a creator, being the architect of our lives, creating our meaning, creating our purpose, and not being passive and waiting for things to be done for us, because they won't be done. And this is the key to living a miserable life, to live a passive life. But according to these philosophers, the main objective is to take control and to be the main person, the main character in our lives, and not to wait for people to give us an aim or to give us a perspective. We must be honest with ourselves and others about who we truly are and what we stand for. We must resist the temptation to wear masks or play roles to fit in or gain approval from others. Instead, we should embrace our unique identities and express ourselves authentically. By creating your life's meaning, understanding your responsibility in life, and excluding yourself from the herd mentality, you'd achieve the first step into discovering your true self. Thank you for watching.